Hi everyone. I want to talk to you about how we will be using this blog and update you on a few things having to do with the blog. And I also want to talk a little bit about our writing class and what it means to write for the internet. So first off, let me address a few things having to do with the blog. As you can see, I've changed the format. It's a better format, partly because it shows us author names on the home page. And I've made a few other slight changes. I've also given us a tag cloud, which will be nice as we move through the semester to see what tags we use most frequently. Now, I'd like to talk about why we're using a blog in addition to merely giving us a way to talk to one another. We could use a forum, NYU Classes forum, or a Google forum. But I want you to think about writing with an audience that is out there and that is greater than this class and greater than just me. I want you to practice putting together content online that could be read by millions of people worldwide. Don't worry, this content will only be seen by our class and maybe a few other people in NYU if we share it with them. But it's important to practice and have that mentality of having a broad readership. This goes for your essays too. You'll be writing for a more general reader, not just for me. This is not a high school class where you're merely writing an essay, sort of short answer essay response to show that you understood the material. You're thinking of writing as a technique, as a means of communication, and therefore you want to pay attention to details in particular ways. So let's talk about some details. And remember, when you blog, imagine that you're sending it out there with your name attached, and potentially anyone could read it. All right, let's do that. So I'll walk through a few things and highlight a few things. So let's look at some recent posts. There's a difference here between screenshot post and post one and no title, and things like two worlds in one picture, saddest joy in Norilsk, it is not too late. I think you can see the difference. There are titles, and then there are labels or even no titles, and we want titles. Everything you write for this class, every blog post, should have a well thought out title. Titles are a key component of good writing. As you write, and as you force yourself to think of a good title, you're forcing yourself to really focus. What is it I'm really writing about? How can I put it into a few words and communicate that? When your reader encounters what you've written, the same thing. You're catching and holding your reader's attention, and you're focusing their attention on what your key point is, or perhaps using a little hook to engage or start to make your argument, even making a persuasive claim or an appeal to the intellect or to emotions. Let's look at some of these titles. And obviously, screenshot post is merely a label. The content is great. William, nice job. But the title isn't helping make the content really shine. It is not too late. Let's think about that title. Without clicking and knowing the context in which this post appears, the question of the Anthropocene, if I know a little bit about this, we can assume our readers out there in the world know a little or can figure out a little bit about context. We don't have to explain everything to them. So knowing a little bit about, say, the context of a site like this, it is not too late, already begins to make an argument, already makes an appeal to the reader. It's got a little hook, right? So good job, T. And let's look at another one. Sadist Joy in Norilsk. Nice job of combining, there's a little bit of intrigue there. Well, how is it sad and joyful at the same time, right? Good job, Shimu. It's nice and specific too. I might not know where Norilsk is, but I can feel that it's Russian probably, right? And get some sense of place and context. These are perfectly fine, Andy and Sam, all of you, introductory video, self-introduction, perfectly fine for the context of that writing task. But as you begin to write these posts on the subject matter and what we read and discuss, do practice coming up with great titles. It's an important part of writing. All right, that's one thing. A few other little things, and this isn't really anybody's fault or anything like that, but you'll see recent comments. I have to look that up. I don't know who YG2170 is. This isn't your fault. You can see others' names appear. It's got something to do with the way the data entered the database. So all I'll ask you to do is go into your dashboard, just like I went into mine, go into your profile, and make sure that this display name publicly as isn't just your NYU ID, okay? If you need to add a name, go ahead, but it should be your name in a way that we can all identify. So as we move through the semester, we're not referring to one another by our NYU ID numbers or what have you, but by names. Okay? I mean, it's fine. I think Lillian, it's fine if you just want to use your first name. Lillian, good job with the comments. Okay. Those are a couple of little things that I'd like you to pay attention to. Titles, and then making sure that your name appears as you want it to and that it's not just your NYU ID. Now let's talk about categories and tags. I've cleaned up the categories a little bit because in web publishing and writing, it's best to have as few categories as possible. They're intended to bring clarity, and too many confuse. The place where you can get really specific and let things go a little bit more wild, if you will, is with tags. And I encourage you to tag every post with 3 to 5 tags. And think of these as keywords. And again, this is a kind of training for your mind here that will pay off when you do research in library databases or online, even if you're just using Google as a search engine. Keyword searches are important. So it's important to train yourself to think in terms of keyword searches, and keywords are tags, right? Just as with your title, you're thinking about what am I writing about and how can I communicate it with just a few words to my reader. This, of course, also plays an organizational role in the development of an online writing project, whether it's collaborative or it's just your own, right? Over the course of the semester, many people will address the concept of deep time in different ways. And you can see that I've done so twice with 2 of my posts here, but you might start thinking more deeply about the concepts that we're beginning to work with and what it is that you're interested in and how you can take a concept or a phrase or a term and begin to put it to work for you, right? So I'm going to update this so we'll have the full name, but thank you, Frank, for tagging your post with Bertinsky, right? You're quoting him, you're writing about him here. You also mentioned Jennifer Beichwald, so you might tag her too. And that way, as we move through this semester, we'll be practicing. These are the sort of best practices that if you get a job in media or a corporation, say, where you're required to provide and create professional grade content, these are the kinds of things that you'll need to build into your writing practice and skill set. Okay, so let's if you haven't given yourself a proper name here, please go into your profile and do that, and also go back and properly title any posts that you have not yet properly titled. All right, so that's it. Thanks again, everyone, for the great work that you're doing so far. I look forward to working with you more, and I'll check out now.